Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half an hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome streams live on Thursday evenings, usually 6 p.m. Eastern Time, a special time for today at 7 p.m. because our Blue Jays just finished winning a great game, which started at 3:37 Eastern Time, and we never want to conflict with a live show or a live game in progress. So, 7 o'clock today, usually 6 p.m. And we stream live on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel. You can also find us on our Facebook page or Twitter page. We post the links so you can always follow along if you like. And if you miss the live streaming, you can always look on any one of those mediums after the fact. We're here when you're ready for us. And if you like what we do here at Jays from the Couch, there's lots more content where that came from. There's Jays from the Couch's main podcast, which is Monday evenings at 6 p.m. during the regular season. So again, is not to conflict with live games in progress. And the host of the main podcast is Sean Doyle, founder and head honcho here at Jays from the Couch. Sean does a great job with the podcast. He's always there's he who is always very interesting to listen to and get his take on things. And he's usually got other people on there with him for some different points of view, whether that's other Jays from the Couch writers. Sometimes I've been on, sometimes other writers, and other folks too, some professional MLB people such as Shai Davidi, Keegan Matheson, and even some Blue Jays players, prospects. Jordan Romano was on a while back. So definitely check that out if you haven't been doing so. And if you missed that live, in addition to Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, that's also available as a radio podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. So Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, any quality podcast carrier has Jays from the Couch. And then another show, which has been on for a while, Tuesday evenings, again at 6 p.m., is the Unfeck Circle, hosted by the Feckless Wonder, Steve Feck, my colleague at Jays from the Couch. And Steve is great. He's very smart. He's always worth a listen. He has lots to say, and he's never boring. Sometimes his opinions can stir up some emotions, either positive or negative. You might not always agree with what Steve has to say, but you'll usually get something valuable out of it, whether it's a laugh, whether you learn something, whether you think about things in a way that you didn't before. So if you haven't been checking that out, the Unfeck Circle, Tuesday evenings, definitely give that a watch and a listen to. All right then. Happy Thursday evening, Blue Jays fans. How's it going? Did you guys watch that crazy seesaw back and forth marathon there that just ended? I was afraid it was actually going to conflict with the show, but it just ended maybe 15 minutes ago. Timing was perfect, so able to get set up for the show and all of that. Wonder if any of you guys are a little bit tired, if you've been staying up for the other games, which all started at 9:40 Eastern Time, and maybe all of you aren't necessarily in the Eastern Time zone. I myself am. I live in Toronto, but some of you who live in some different time zones, maybe if some of you were out in the West Coast, that might have worked well for you. Myself, it's just too late for me. As much of a Jays fan as I am, I need to get my sleep. I do have a full-time job in the morning, so Jays in 30 it has been for me for the last few days, and it's been interesting. So before I get to the heart of tonight's order, there's actually a lot of transactional stuff that has gone on, which might end up taking about half of the show. There's just been so much in the course of 1 week. It's almost like a revolving door. So TJ Zoik, I don't know if many people even heard. I don't remember seeing an announcement. I was looking at the minor league rosters that were announced just a few days ago because the minor league season actually got underway this week, and Zoik is on the roster for AAA Buffalo. I'm like, okay, when did that happen? Last I heard he was on the injured list. So I checked the transactions, and he actually was activated, but then optioned. So not a huge surprise. Unfortunately, when he pitched a few games for the Jays, he really didn't pitch well. So AAA, and he's down there for some depth. And if he can figure out a way to maybe help the major league club in the future if they need him, then fingers crossed for that. And other than that, for the time being anyway, he's a AAA. So that's TJ Zoik. Teoscar Hernandez was activated finally from the COVID list on April the 30th. So he's been back for about a week, and he's actually hit quite well since he's come back. Before today, and today he also did some damage with the bat. He had a plus 118 weighted runs created since his activation on April the 30th. I'm not worried about Hernandez' bat. I mean, he was a silver slugger last year, and I really do expect him to be that good on the offensive side for the next several years. The defense, well, we won't talk about the nice big blunder he made in the outfield today. Just when I really thought he'd gotten better out there. I mean, before today, I don't remember seeing him make a big mistake like that. Thank goodness it didn't cost the Jays any runs, and they did win the game. So yeah, Jonathan Davis, he was optioned, and then he was called back up a few days later when George Springer went back on the injured list. We'll get to him in a bit. Tanner Roark, last we were talking about him, he was on leave for family reasons, and since then he's been designated for assignment and released. So the Jays are still on the hook for the rest of this season for the remainder of his salary, which is $12 million for the season. I mean, they signed him to a 2-year contract, and it really never worked out for him in a Blue Jays uniform. Wish him all the best. You know, certainly on the human side, whatever's going on with his family, hope everything works out okay. And I don't not wish him luck with the rest of his career. It's just kind of unfortunate. As I said, the Jays paid him a lot of money. He really never helped them win many games, and now they're on the hook for the rest of this season. So, be interesting to see what happens if another team picks him up for major league minimum, and we'll see about that. So Russ Strickland, was activated. He made a start. Did okay, not too bad. He's scheduled to start actually, I believe, tomorrow when the Jays move on to Houston to play against the Astros. So that'll be an interesting series there. Alejandro Kirk, unfortunately, is on the injured list, and it sounds, hearing some updates as far as some timelines, they're saying he's going to need at least 4 weeks and maybe longer with a hip flexor strain. So that's really too bad because, I mean, we know Kirk is a bat-first catcher, and he started the season hitless over his first, I forget how many games, but he'd really come on and he was really hitting. So it's really too bad to lose him for any length of time. And then some other interesting transactions. So when Kirk went out, you needed another catcher because Danny Jansen, like no catcher can catch 7 days a week. You need at least a backup catcher, even if Jansen is going to be the number one. So the closest catcher to being MLB ready, who was already on the 40-man roster, was Riley Adams. They did call him up, which is kind of what I expected, but he's never even made his MLB debut, and as it happened, he never even got into a game for the Jays. So kind of an up and down ride for Riley Adams, a little bit unfortunate that way, but at whatever point the club deemed that this isn't going to be short-term for Alejandro Kirk. As they said, he needs a minimum of 4 weeks, and who knows how long after that. I guess they decided that they wanted the second catcher to be someone with some MLB experience. So on that note, they put Reese McGuire back on the 40-man roster. They had to do that in order to activate him. So they activated him, they optioned Riley Adams, and to get Reese McGuire back on the 40-man roster, they had to take someone off. Julian Merriweather, unfortunately, has been moved to the 60-day injured list. That's really too bad. I mean, this man, this pitcher has just got so much talent when he's healthy, and he seems to really have a hard time staying healthy. And again, he's not a young man. I believe he's 29 or 30. I forget off the top of my head exactly, but I hate to think someday. I mean, we've seen them in the past, pitchers with all the talent in the world, but just couldn't stay healthy long enough to put it together and really make a contribution. There was Dustin McGowan. After him, there was Brandon Morrow, and I'd hate to think of Julian Merriweather being added to that group someday. I see it as a possibility, unfortunately, but hope I'm wrong. And what's one thing they've said, well, Ross Atkins also gave some updates in terms of timelines and what they're hoping for going forward. So Merriweather is eligible to be activated on June the 13th, and they're saying they want to go full steam ahead on June the 13th. So knock on wood, really, really hope that Merriweather will actually be ready to pitch on or near June the 13th and pitch like he did when he got into a few games for the Jays, and he looked like an absolutely lights out, unhittable closer type, like Mariano Rivera 2.0 almost. It's what it looked like to me. So if we can get that back at some point this season, then that'll be a huge boost. George Springer, activated, played in 4 games, actually had a 2 home run game last Saturday, and that was key in helping the Jays. They were down early in the game, and the 2 home runs, the second one tied the game, and then they ended up winning it in extra innings thanks to Randall Grichuk walk-off hit. But I mean, great to have Springer back for 4 games, and then it just kind of turned into Springergate, and it was really very unfortunate how he was taken out of a game. He so far he has only ever DH'd for the Jays in the regular season, and had 3 at bats last Sunday, and then was taken out due to fatigue. And some people were wondering, so why was he so fatigued after being the DH for 3 at-bats? None of the other guys are coming out, and they're playing in the field. And it was like, okay, when is he going to play again? He's day-to-day. He went on the trip with the team to Oakland, and we were wondering, is he going to play this day? Is he going to play that day? Is it just fatigue? Is it the quad again? And then now he's back on the injured list because he's apparently re-aggravated the quad injury. So very unfortunate. Fans kind of wondering, I think some fans are, if the Jays are really being forthcoming with their fans as to what is going on type of thing. I mean, I don't know all that much as far as the process, what goes on behind the scenes, but what little I've heard and picked up on. So if a player is injured, if they suspect a player is injured, if there's any chance that there is, I mean, there's certain medical tests that you can do. You can do x-rays, you can do an MRI, there's things like that. From what I understand, a lot of it, they actually rely on the player himself and asking him, George or whoever it is, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Are you still injured? That sort of thing, getting the feedback from the player himself. I keep hearing that Springer actually has this insanely high tolerance to pain. So if they were actually relying on him, telling them, how do you feel? And he says he feels fine and he wants to get back and he wants to hit at least and help the team, contribute to the team winning in that way. maybe they listened to him, and maybe they should have erred on the side of caution where that was concerned. So something to keep in mind. And I mean, not that I want to be without him for any length of time, because I mean, he was at who knows what, half strength, maybe a little bit better than half, and he still hit 2 big home runs in one game for the Jays. I can't wait until he's healthy and we can actually see the guy that the Jays went out and paid big money for. And I still believe it'll happen, but I really want him to just sit out until he's really ready this time, and no wondering and none of this, back and forth and all of that stuff. So that's George Springer. Anthony Castro, they're saying he's still on the injured list. Apparently they're looking at a fairly quick return for him, so that'll be great because he was pitching very well for the Jays. If he can come back healthy and able to pitch like he was before, that'll be great. Tommy Malone, they said not too much longer. Tommy Malone started his Jays career quite well, and his last couple of outings before the IL weren't really that great, so not really sure whenever he comes back which Tommy Malone will see. But I mean, even if he ends up doing some mop-up duty in a blowout game and save some of the other higher leverage arms, that would be okay too. They activated Hyun-Jin Ryu to start today's game, and in order to make room for him, David Phelps unfortunately went on the 10-day IL. So, I mean, that just happened. We don't know how much longer he's going to be out. Hopefully that'll be shorter term because he's also been a very effective pitcher for the Jays. So fingers crossed there. And then they've even talked about Thomas Hatch, which I'll be honest, I'd sort of written him off for the rest of this season. I don't know if that's premature. I mean, I didn't want to get my hopes up. Don't want to get my hopes up. But I mean, if he's a quality arm if they can get him back healthy. So they're saying that they actually that they're trying to get him to a point where they can ramp him up when he's actually eligible to come back he's on the 60-day IL as well. And what they want is for him to be able to go 6 innings pitched and throw about 80 pitches, and he's progressing according to Ross Atkins. So, I mean, they are still looking at him as having a place in the starting rotation. So if that works out, I'm not getting my hopes up, but if it works out, absolutely, that would be amazing. So, Tony Mattingly, how many starts do you see Nate Pearson making in AAA? Thank you for the question. That's a very good question. That's actually something I think I was going to get to a little bit later, but I'll address that now. From what I've been hearing, so this upcoming series in Houston, so they've got Russ Strickland starting on Saturday, or excuse me, starting on Friday, that's tomorrow, and then Saturday, they're saying maybe, I forget. Oh yeah, sorry, Steven Matz, pardon me. Yes, Saturday is Steven Matz. Sunday is the one that's undecided, and I mean, they had Anthony K start on Tuesday, so he would be in line on regular 4 days rest to start on Sunday, and he still might get that start on Sunday. I'm actually hearing a number of people, like not just your fans like me or anything, but actual people who are a little more in the know, your professional media people and so forth, speculating that it's possible he could even get the start this coming Sunday. He did, I don't know if you followed, he did have a start for AAA Buffalo, and he pitched into the 4th inning. He was doing quite well. He had a whole bunch of strikeouts, which Nate Pearson does a lot of. Unfortunately, his pitch count got a little bit elevated, and I think they had to pull him in the 4th, but I mean, I'd love to see Nate Pearson up here, whether it's Sunday or sometime in the near future. So yeah, to answer your question, it sounds like he might not be at AAA all that much longer. And if he can pitch like I believe he can, and many Jays fans and in the organization believe he can, he could definitely help this team out. I mean, heaven knows, with the revolving door and everything else, they could use some quality pitching. So maybe help us on the way. We'll see. Yeah, so Hatch. Oh, and yeah, the other thing before I get to the the actual heart of tonight's lineup, as we're already 2/3 way of the way through the episode, another interesting announcement just a couple of days ago is that the Blue Jays they will be done eaten at the end of May for the regular season. That come June 1st, their new home away from home will actually be in Buffalo, where the Buffalo Bisons normally play, and they had actually moved the Buffalo Bisons for this season to Trenton, so that is where they're playing their home games. That's happened already. I mean, it was pretty clear that the Blue Jays were going to be moving from Florida to Buffalo as we get a little more into the warmer months. It just gets so warm down there in Florida. It's hurricane season. There's a lot of reasons why moving out of there makes some sense. So it's going to be Buffalo for the foreseeable future. And I'm still hoping it'll be Toronto at some point this year. I mean, it won't be in May. It doesn't sound like it's going to be in June. I had really hoped that maybe they could do it by July. I don't know that that's going to happen. Maybe August, September. I still want them home. I want them here in Toronto. I want people who are fully vaccinated to be able to go to some games and, get our lives on track to being back to normal. I actually ran a poll on Twitter. It's still in progress. The last time I checked on it, I asked, do you believe the Blue Jays will be playing in Toronto again in 2021? And the last time I saw, 134 people had answered. And a little bit to my surprise, 42% said yes and 58% said no. I guess I never realized that many other people thought they won't be back this season. I knew some people thought that, but anyway, we'll see. I mean, a lot of things could go right or they could go wrong. I'm really hoping that it'll be doable for this year, for sometime in 2021. And now, briefly onto the heart of tonight's order, and try to go through this. So it's been a terrific week since the last time we were here. The Jays have gone 5-2, so they swept Atlanta, 3 games there. That was fantastic, and they looked really good doing it. Particularly the hitting. The hitting has really come on in the last little while, and then they went into Oakland for a 4-game set, dropped the first 2, unfortunately, and you're thinking, oh no, but then they bounced back and won the final 2, including today, by a score of 10-4. And I mean, they say one of the old baseball adages, and there's lots of them out there, is if you can play 500 baseball on the road, take care of business on your own home ballpark, then you should have a pretty good season and you should be able to contend. Well, the Blue Jays played 500 in a series in Oakland, and they didn't just do it on the road. They did it against the team that at the start of play today had the best record in all of MLB. So I'm pretty impressed that they were able to do that. I think they're really improving. So again, the bats, and one of the things I really like is that it's not just 1 or 2 guys that are carrying the entire load, that they've got guys up and down this lineup that can help and that can really contribute when they get a chance. So going back, I know it was a week ago Tuesday when Vlad Guerrero Jr. had that really big game. He had the 3 home runs and 7 RBIs, and the Jays won 9-5. So that was a week ago Tuesday. Then they played, they lost Wednesday. They had an off day on Thursday. And then the weekend series against Atlanta on the Friday game, they had 6 home runs by 5 different guys, 2 of them by Alejandro Kirk, who unfortunately is going to be out for a while, so that's a loss. And then the other guys, 1 each by Bo Bichette, Randall Grichuk, Teoscar Hernandez, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. So again, offense, power, up and down that lineup. So many different guys contributing. If one guy has an off night, somebody else is likely going to be there to pick them up. Saturday was the 2 Springer Dinger games. So again, the Jays were down early, and Springer came up a couple times, hit 2 home runs. Second one tied the game, extra innings, and Grichuk with a walk-off hit. So again, total team effort, but different guys contributing. Sunday, more of the same. Marcus Semien had a home run, so and they won. They swept that series, so that was all great. And yesterday, they scored 9 runs. They were down early in the game, and they just strung together a bunch of hits. Now, I love it when my team hits home runs. I'm not one of those. Some of your broadcasters, certain broadcasters that have been around for quite some time, seem to be of the belief that home runs can actually be a rally killer. For me, that completely defies all logic. I love home runs. I love them when my team is hitting them. When other teams are hitting them against the Jays, not so much. But I'm never going to say that I don't like home runs. Hi, Steve Feck. Jays are scoring 6.3 runs per game at Dunedin, less than 3.5 runs on the road. Yeah, you've got a valid point there, although again, I think the bats are starting to heat up, so the ballpark may be a factor there, but, they managed today to score 10 runs in Oakland and 9 runs the night before, so I think you're going to see that change a little bit. Thank you for those facts, but yeah. So yeah, the great thing that I found about last night is that they were able to string together a bunch of hits and score 9 runs without the benefit of a home run at all. So I like it when the Jays hit home runs, but, and I've been saying this for years, because they've had teams with a bunch of big boppers that a lot of the time can't seem to do much else offensively other than hit home runs. I like the home run, but you have to have other offensive weapons in your arsenal in addition to the home run, because you're not going to be hitting long balls all of the time, night after night after night, and you have to find ways to generate offense when you're not hitting them out. So they did that yesterday. Today was a little bit of both, so seesaw battle. Hyun-Jin Ryu activated, but wasn't really at his best, lasted 5 innings, gave up 4 home runs, so it was the offense that really got it done today, and the offense and the bullpen. Jay's bullpen again, wow. What can you say? You can't really say enough good things about their bullpen. But yeah, they had some home runs. So Randall Grichuk, a 3-run home run. Danny Jansen, his first home run of the season. So hopefully his bat is starting to heat up a bit. His defense has actually been very good, and so many people have just about had it with Danny Jansen because of his almost complete lack of offensive contribution this year until very recently. And a lot of them, I don't know if they notice how good he is defensively. So, but I'm glad he's still around. I haven't given up on him. And yeah, so he had a home run today, and hopefully he'll just keep the ball rolling, so to speak. Marcus Semien had a home run late in the game. It was already 9-4, made it 10-4. But in between, the other 4 or so runs that they scored was by stringing some hits together. And again, they have to be able to do that. Tony Mattingly, first Jansen home run in a general good series. Could he finally be better than a 200 hitter, or is this a fluke? Yeah, very good question. I wish I had a crystal ball, but my 2 cents on the matter, it'll be interesting to see. I have always believed that Jansen has the talent to be a good 2-way player in the major leagues. They called him up in 2018. I mean, firstly, he was always a bat-first catcher in the minors. Now, what you do in the minors doesn't always translate into success in the majors because you've got a much higher level of competition, so it was never a guarantee. But he came up as a rookie in 2018, and he actually hit quite well. Didn't hit very well in 2019, but he was a finalist for the Gold Glove, so I always assumed that he really spent the majority of that year working on the defensive side of the game, and that was my assumption. I don't know. And then last year in the short season, again, his offensive numbers weren't good, but funny thing, once they called Alejandro Kirk up to the majors around mid-September, from that point forward, Danny Jansen just went on a tear with the bats, and his numbers were really, really good. So, I mean, who knows? That was a 60-game season. Had that been 162 games, maybe he's cold for a month and a half and then hot for 4.5 months. Well, we'll never really know how it would have played out. So I'm very interested to see how the rest of his season goes, and I'd like to hope that he could get back to being, for a catcher, a good enough hitter. Maybe he could hit 250. He gets on base. That's one thing. His walk rate is very good. He knows the strike zone. He sees the ball very well. So if he can even hit 250 with a little bit of pop, get on base, then I'd be happy with that to go with his defense. So we're almost at the end of today's show. It's been a fun show, and that brings us to 3 Blue Jay colored glasses. So here we are this week with an overall record of 16-14 and 2 games back, I believe, of the Boston Red Sox, who are still in first place, and that was a bit of a surprise to me, but that's where they stand. I really like this Toronto Blue Jays team. I really like the progress that they've made, that they seem to be coming together as a team. They're starting to hit the way I and many people believe that they would as a team, just as the pitching has started to slow down over the last little while, and hopefully that's just a blip, but we'll see. But the offense has stepped in and picked things up. I really believe in this team. Some people don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year. I really do. I think that they're going to be, at the very worst, a wild card team. I think it's going to be better when they go into these playoffs. I'm not saying I think they're going to win the World Series this year, but I think they're going to do better than they did last year. They'll at least win a game or two and maybe even advance around, depending on how it goes. But yeah, I think they're really on track. I think they're making very good progress from a full-on rebuild just 2 years ago to a team that I think is a legitimate contender. And so many of these guys are so young. They're so talented. They're under contract or team control for so many years. The future really is bright for this team, and I can't wait to see it unfold. And on that note, that's all I've got for you for this week. So let's go Blue Jays, and see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in.